Hey, friend, welcome to the Rooted Wellness Podcast. This podcast is dedicated to empowering Christian women to live holistically and on purpose. I'm your host, Amanda Adams. I'm an occupational therapist, owner of Rooted Therapy and Wellness, and Amanda Adams Coaching, as well as the founder of my signature course, The Restoration Remedy, that will officially be launching on January 1st, 2025. So be sure to head over to Rooted Therapy and Wellness on Facebook or Instagram and tune in here each week for more information. I'm excited to share this space where faith and wellness collide with you. Whether it's cultivating a peaceful mind, nourishing your body, deepening your walk with God, or anything in between, this podcast offers biblical insights, practical wisdom, expert guidance, encouragement, and a community of like minded women. Discover how to live holy, mind, body, and spirit, rooted in faith. So I'm turning 41 this week, and as I've done some reflecting and goal setting for the next year, I have a few thoughts that I would like to share. Did you know that the average life expectancy for a woman is around 80 years? Now, this means that I'm officially over halfway there. I've made a lot of changes over the past few years, but I feel like I spent far too many years of the first half living on autopilot and survival mode, flying by the seat of my pants, and just rolling with the punches of whatever came my way. But I've decided that I want to live the second half with purpose. I want to age gracefully and live intentionally. Our culture, which focuses way too much on the external, has glamorized aging gracefully as looking 20 forever. But we all know that that is not realistic, and there's far more to it than that. Aging gracefully isn't about trying to hide the years that we've lived, but embracing each chapter along the way, honoring the journey, finding God's goodness each moment, and making our days count. I've learned that with age comes wisdom, perspective, experience, resilience, and a whole new level of appreciation. These are gifts that not only add to the richness of our own lives, but also allow us to have a meaningful impact in the lives of others. Part of aging gracefully allows us to become more of who we truly are, to live in alignment with our God given identity, and to live by our original design rather than what the world tells us that we should be. The world has conditioned us to believe that we constantly have to be on, connected, going 90 to nothing in a million directions, and producing to have worth and value. And that's a lie straight from the pits of hell, but it's left a lot of us living in a chronic state of survival mode. And survival mode isn't a bad thing for short periods of time. Like God literally created it as a built in safety mechanism to keep us safe and alive, but He never intended it to be a place to live from or a lifestyle. It's chronic survival mode that's a very dangerous place to be. And that is where a lot of dysfunction, illness, and disease starts to manifest from. Living in survival mode just keeps us reacting rather than actually creating. It leaves us on autopilot, just checking boxes off the to do list and constantly trudging forward, just trying to meet the demands of everyday life without stopping to ask, like, where am I actually going and what do I truly want? But it doesn't have to be that way. We have the choice to keep running full steam ahead on the hamster wheel, or we can actually get off and start living intentionally. When we live with intention, we're able to make conscious choices that allow us to cultivate a life that aligns with our original design and is meaningful and fulfilling. It's about being mindful of how we spend our time, who we spend it with, and the impact that we want to make. It's about small, consistent actions that honor where we are and where we're headed. By living with intention, we choose to fill our days with purpose. So, how can we live more intentionally while aging gracefully? First, I would say start by knowing your why, your core values, and your priorities. By clearly defining these things, you can start to make decisions based on the core set of definitions from your heart and your most authentic self. So start by asking yourself a few simple questions. What do I want my life to look like when it's all said and done? What do I not want my life to look like? What is most important and meaningful to me? What is my mission in life? What contribution do I want to make? How do I want to show up daily in my life? What is the best use of my time and energy? What truly brings my soul joy? What qualities do I admire most in other people? What aspects of my current life align with the life that I dream of? And which aspects don't? And what does success truly look like to me? And then once you know where you stand, take some time to write out a personal value statement or a life statement. I have a pretty long personal value statement, but my life statement in a nutshell is that I want as many people as possible to feast on the fruit of my life. I want to be able to stand before God and say, I used everything you gave me, and hear Him say, well done, good and faithful servant. And then from there, take some time to evaluate your life and see where you're engaging in old thought patterns, behaviors, and habits that are no longer serving you and may even possibly be sabotaging you. Consider what areas of your life are pushing you further away from your values and goals and where you need to make some changes. And then find some ways to replace them in a way that will help you to steward your mind, body, and spirit well. And I mentioned this in the last episode, and you're probably going to hear me say it a million more times. But as you start to make changes, please don't try to overhaul your entire life at one time. Our brains like simplicity and consistency, and it will always take the path of least resistance. So when we try to do too much, too fast, too soon, the brain detects that as a threat and it will hit the brakes. And so that's one of the many reasons that resolutions fail us. And so the brain will always choose familiar chaos over unfamiliar peace because it likes what it knows. So even if what you're trying to do is healthier and a better option, start by making small, consistent shifts so that you don't overwhelm your nervous system. Over time, it will add up to meaningful changes. Next, set some goals that are actually realistic and sustainable. Don't set yourself up for failure right out of the gate by setting the bar too high. And goals are great because they can help to guide us and direct us, but if we can't actually achieve them, then it's a waste of time. A great template for setting goals is to set SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So as you set your goals, be aware of your capacity. Obviously, we can't predict the future, but take a look at any upcoming events or holidays and be aware of the season of life that you're in. Also, check your motives. So setting goals that are directly linked to your values makes them more meaningful or relevant, and then ultimately you're more likely to achieve them. Having short-term and long-term goals can also be greatly beneficial. So long-term goals help us to visualize the future, while short-term goals are the benchmarks that helps to get us there. So whatever your long-term goal may be, break that down into smaller chunks that you can achieve in a shorter period of time. So for example, if you want to start walking 10,000 steps a day, but you're currently only walking 2,000 to 3,000 steps a day, then set a long-term goal that you'll reach 10,000 steps each day in 3 months. But then have some short-term goals and that are more achievable along the way, like 5,000 steps by the end of the first month and 7,500 at the end of the second month. So when it's easier for you to achieve, you're going to be more motivated. And with that being said, start with the lowest hanging fruit. Like, what is the area that would be the easiest for you to start making changes? Start there, and then once you can be consistent in that area, then move to the next area. I know that we all want these instantaneous, miraculous changes, but keep in mind that the healing journey is just that, a journey. Next, stay focused on what God has for you. It is so easy to get distracted in this world. So we have to also be intentional about staying connected to our Creator and invite Him into the process. He wants to be in a relationship with you, and He cares about the little details. So staying connected to the vine helps us to remain centered, grounded, and present while focusing on what truly matters. Next, know that you are the gatekeeper of your mind. The enemy knows the power that our minds hold, but all he has to do is plant a tiny little seed, and we will run wild with it. And if he can keep us distracted, living in fear, playing small, doubting our worth, value, and abilities, and not being obedient to what God has called us to do, then he doesn't have to worry about us fulfilling God's will. And ultimately, we've done his job for him. When you take your mind back, you take your power back. Whatever gets your mind gets you. So it is absolutely vital that we be alert and present, guard our minds, stay grounded in God's word, take our thoughts captive, and turn them back to the truth. Next, recognize that there is power in proximity and value in learning from other people. We become like those who we surround ourselves with. So if you're surrounded by negative people, then more than likely you're going to be negative. But on the flip side of that, if you surround yourself with positive, growth minded people, then you're more likely to reflect those qualities. Surrounding yourself with people who inspire you to live your life with purpose and encourage you makes it so much easier to stay the course. But also be sure to include people who aren't afraid to call you out and redirect you when it's needed. Next, always be teachable and willing to learn, grow, and evolve. This is part of the sanctification process. So, staying stagnant in your comfort zone doesn't move the needle towards the life you desire. And remember that if nothing changes, then nothing changes. Next, put some healthy boundaries in place. A lot of people just assume that a boundary is this defensive or aggressive way to create distance in a relationship. And while that is a boundary, that's an example of an unhealthy boundary. So, healthy boundaries are flexible barriers that are both protective and nourishing. And so, basically, they establish limits, guidelines, and expectations for how we live life. So, that can be with other people as well as with ourselves. They help us to guide our behavior as well as serve as guidelines for the behavior that we're willing to tolerate from other people. So, use your core values and priorities to navigate that process. Next, different seasons of life require different things. So make sure that you take the time to check in with yourself periodically to see what's working and what isn't working out so well so that you can pivot and make adjustments whenever necessary. Whatever works in one season may not work in the next. Being mindful, present, and self aware is absolutely necessary for that process. And last but not least, give yourself some grace. Recognize your humanity and let go of the pursuit of perfection. Unfortunately, life didn't come with a manual and no one has it figured out. If there's one thing that I hope you take away from today, it's that small steps can lead to beautiful shifts and that you can cultivate the life that you desire by living intentionally and aging gracefully. So instead of chasing our tails and living life in the fast lane, let's live life on purpose with clarity, peace, and joy. I want you to get clear on what you want out of life and go for it. Be bold. You only live once, right? YOLO. All right, friends, that's a wrap for this episode. I'm so glad that you joined me today, and I hope that you'll keep coming back for more. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button and share with a friend who may need to hear this message. If you would like more information about the services that I offer, you can find me over on Facebook and Instagram at Rooted Therapy and Wellness, or you can also head over to rootedtherapyandwellness.com where you can schedule a free consultation call. Before you go, I want to send you out with a blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Talk to you next week, friend.